Right now! Right now! A red day! A sword day! What was that?
I don't know. What was that?
The Ride of the Rohirrim.
I didn't recognise that. I must admit.
Call yourself a fucking fan.
I don't call myself a Lord of the Rings fan. I just know about it. That's my
Awkward.
That's my confession.
Well,
I hate to disappoint all the people who are really pleased by my Lord of the Rings joke, but I've seen all the films one time and haven't read the books. Although
What
I know
was the joke?
it was the looks like something's back on the menu. It was after the
Oh yeah.
something.
let's not rehash jokes
No.
we told fucking 10 episodes ago.
Yeah, okay. Well, you do that. Well, you do that every episode.
That's all I've got. It's all I've got. Ed Campbell, you sly dog. How are you?
Doing very well.
Right?
Doing all, you old rooster.
You old sod,
No.
Campbell.
I'm doing very well, thank
You
you.
old bastard. How are you? How the
Horrendous.
devil are you?
Tremendous. Thank you.
Good. Ava Santina? Hello? How are you?
Nothing new ever, is there?
No.
Never. No.
Capital J journalist?
No, but there's never like a, something slick. Ava Santina, you're fired. Something like that.
Do you want that?
No.
We can do that. If you
No.
want.
No, I obviously don't.
Most viewed episode of all time, Ava.
Ava sacked live on the podcast.
By
Why
all
are
it.
you laughing?
We should just do that.
Funny.
We should obviously do that with our thumbnails and like titles.
Right.
Just lie.
Yeah.
Like grayed out. Ava, like grayed out, black and white thumbnail.
Red X.
Ava, like sad.
Ed doing a laughing YouTube face.
Ava. I was sat from the Pubcast.
Yeah.
Busy week. Busy old week, guys.
Very.
Busy old week. Suella Braverman been on her bullshit. On multiple fronts, actually. She's fighting a war on two fronts, which you have to respect.
What's the second front? Oh yeah, you're so right. Sorry.
Well, the first, I would say, the first front is probably a slightly more elongated and longer front, which is against democratic right to protest and just generally the civil liberties of the British people. And then by extension of that, you could say it's the same front, but it's probably like slightly more specific, and that's just the rights of homeless people to not die in the cold. She's also started waging a war there as well. So busy this week.
Yeah. That one's really been on the. She really had the finger on the pulse with that one, didn't she?
Yeah.
That was what everyone was concerned about.
She read the mood of the country.
Yeah.
Too many tents out there. I thought Torbs was great.
Yeah, he
The
was,
last
wasn't he?
episode.
Very
Very
good.
very moving, very considered, a useful contribution.
Yeah. No, he really was actually.
So she was obviously doing that shit. Who is that for? Who's it for?
Yeah. The constituent of evil bastards that
But like,
make up our towns and villages.
that's a fake person. You know, like
Yeah, no, I think
you know
it
how
is.
like sometimes you often make a joke about like a man in a village who's like they
What's
want
he
to take
got?
my shotguns
Yeah,
away.
yeah.
Like he's not a real person.
I think he is.
Well, okay, there's a few, but there's not.
But there's not enough to make a voting bloc.
It's not a viable political constituency
Maybe
to cater to.
No, maybe it should be.
I don't know. I'm trying to imagine a scenario. So one scenario that I enjoyed was imagining Sunak's camp having no idea that this was going to be leaked to the Financial Times, and then finding out the next morning, like, what the fuck, Suella? What is that? You know?
Is the constituency? So if I know we're like sort of doing history last week.
Yeah.
Rishi Sunak interviews Elon Musk. Lots of media coverage around that. AI summit, etc., setting out his legacy. Kemi Badenoch addresses ARC,
Oh yeah.
that latest from the episode before, which I may or may not have suggested should have been bombed.
Oh
You
my
remember
god.
that? No, you weren't here for that, were you?
No, but I'm
No.
glad we've rehashed it.
Yeah, just
Double down.
Well, I made it ambiguous. She spoke at that,
Yeah.
and I think she said that Stonewall had been taken over by like left-wing nutters, and that pronouns were silly, or something. So obviously she secured some favourable coverage
Yeah.
in the right-wing press because of that. And so you're Suella, and you're sat there being like, "Man, I need to get in on this action.
Yeah.
Massively overcorrected.
Like, I don't know who's doing her political
She's got the
strategy.
gays, I'll get them.
Who else is vulnerable?
Yeah.
Who needs
That
taking
guy in Hyde Park. Fuck his tent.
Who needs taking down a peg or two?
So she course corrects.
Completely misread that Ricky Gervais sketch about Oh no, who was
It's
it?
James Acaster about Ricky Gervais.
About punching up.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
like, just keeps punching down. Like, this is-
She thought James Acaster was being earnest, was like being like, yeah, he's right. they do need taking down a peg or two. They're too comfy in their big tents.
yeah. You open up a tent, like pull it back, and there's like a 50-inch TV screen. And, like,
It's like a TARDIS.
yeah.
So obviously she's been doing that.
Yep.
She's been on that mad shit. And maybe there is, maybe there is a world in which people find that politically compelling for her to say that homeless people shouldn't have tents.
It's compelling, to be fair.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It's certainly
Yeah,
interesting.
look,
Grab
it's
them for attention.
provocative. Yeah, I mean, look.
It's all anyone's talking about. It's certainly compelling.
But that's the point.
yeah.
That's the point. I think it's just names out there. It's being in the headlines. It's taking over the news cycle.
So you think that she goes to bed at night going, can't get my name out their mouths?
Yeah. You take my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
Absolutely.
That was the most egregious episode in social drama because we come to find out that she's not his wife.
Yeah. The whole thing was bizarre
Is she not his wife?
They've been separated.
for like 7 years.
But was it like open relationship or like?
Seemingly, did she not say quite recently, this is, for podcast listeners who don't know, this is Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith. And Jada Pinkett Smith says that they've been like living separate lives since like 2016.
Yeah.
Which is, so what was he doing?
If that's the case, then she must have been like criminally embarrassed.
Yeah.
By those events.
I have to like text all of her side men.
Yeah.
Don't listen to him.
Yeah, it'd be fucking cringe. Anyway, so
Pick me up at 9, Zaddy.
In the Oscars.
Yeah.
did you say Zaddy?
Yeah.
What was that thing that was like, who is Lil Gronk and why is he rizzing up?
Oh yeah. Just the most terminally online.
Yeah.
Can you believe Lil Zong is rizzing up? It was like some like
Who was
university gymnastics person who's TikTok famous.
We are so offline, aren't we? We're just not involved in this. Right, so that's the one front she's been waging war on. You'd have to say successfully.
Successful in that she's famous.
Yeah. Oh
Sorry,
no,
famous
no,
is a
sorry.
Stupid thing
Famous.
to say. Fucking like.
Which like Anna Delvey or something. Like, what do you
Yeah.
mean? Like,
But nonetheless, not like it was never going to happen.
No, it's
Do
not.
you know what I mean?
not the
Like
King's speech.
they were never going to take the tents away. Surely,
they might.
Surely?
I don't know. She might. I don't know.
that would just be mental.
Well, I think the it's sort of like she thought the NOS canisters had been so successful.
Thank
she'll
God.
Now go for the next.
Yeah, thank God they struck that down.
Yeah.
It's good because we were all addicted to NOS. And now we're
Still
not.
am, buddy.
And now we're not.
Used
So-
my last. It was yesterday, wasn't it? I said turn to you and I said you got 9 hours left to possess NOS.
Ran home.
Yeah.
Consumed
You-
all the nitrous oxide I had.
But you don't have those little ones. You had like
No.
that big hospital grade.
Just injecting it straight into the lungs.
Yeah.
My blood is so thin at the moment.
No balloon.
It got to 11:58.
Straight
You
to
just
the
gave up on the
dome.
balloons. Yeah, just
Yeah.
straight out the pipe.
Inflating them lungs.
Yeah. Thank God they done that. They tackled that. Thank
They,
goodness.
they think about bins.
For the litter.
Yeah, I mean, was that an alternative to banning it?
In fairness, bins exist already.
You couldn't, but you need more bins.
You do need more bins.
You need more
the-
bins.
Surely the issue with it also being on the street isn't that the bins are full. It's that like that's not it. People like the NOS consumers are littering. To be fair, that is a genuine. That's like
Well, I
they
don't
wouldn't
know.
use the bins if there was more.
You try and throw something away in central London. It's very difficult.
That's difficult.
Because the consideration you've got to have is if you're going to get like a coffee from somewhere, then you're like, this will now be with me until I get home.
Other than obviously the complete horror and upset caused by like the various terror attacks in the early, start of this century, early 21st century. One of the greatest losses was the fact that we lost all of the bins on the train station platforms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you just
They've
have a
got bags
plastic.
now.
You just have a plastic bag,
That's
if
still
at
fine.
all.
If at all, sometimes it's just a little
Sometimes it's
hoop
not
there, you
yeah.
know. I've got a thing. So outside my house, there is.
There's no pushback on that. But apart from the
I'm trying to think of it. I'm not that.
You're
I'm
right.
like
That is the worst thing about that. 7-7, terrible. No more bins.
I've got a water pump, like a
Heat pump. You a heat pump?
no, like you know what they would have pumped water from, like a font situation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
Right.
it's like a really great pump because it's like got this whole cholera history on it. I was really excited about it when I
cholera?
moved in. I was like,
That's so interesting.
I like everyone, anytime someone came over, I was like, before we go in, can I just show you the cholera pump? And it's full of people's rubbish. So that's basically what's happened. 7-7.
Next thought.
My cholera pump is ruined.
Shameless.
Butterfly effect.
She could wage war on that, couldn't she? Litter. But no, she's not done that. She's so there's the other front. The hate marches. These fucking hate marches.
But that would go under the protest front, no?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Waging war
saying.
on-
There's
yeah.
there's that front, and then there's the homeless front. And well, if what's that approaching over the hill? It's the consequences of her actions of being like, we must defend the cenotaph, and now like the entirety of the British far right is coming to London on Saturday to defend the cenotaph, and they've summoned the head of the Met Police to be like, we might have gone a step too far.
And Mark Crowley's like, no, you have to learn a lesson.
You'll take your fucking medicine, Home Secretary.
Learning about consequences for the first time.
There were tweets that were genuine calls to arms, like
Oh, yeah.
that were going around. They were exceptional. They were like, "This is for your country."
Yeah, have you seen any of the videos that Tommy's been putting out?
Oh, are we going to mention him by name?
Oh, what?
Tom
Sorry, Stephen Yaxley Lennon. Would you prefer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Stevie.
if you could, yeah.
Is it a bit
It's so that when he takes us to court, we've referenced the correct person.
right? Yeah, so he's put out these videos, and it's the language he uses is very much. It's like England expects that every man will do his duty. It's if you are a man and you intend to defend the nation and you intend to defend, we can just play the clip. We can just put it in. I'm not afraid to play a Tommy Robinson clip on the podcast.
All right.
Go for it.
You fucking are, do you?
Will that demonetize us on YouTube?
Possibly. Let's find out.
Let's find out.
Let's find out. Roll the clip.
Just a quick one from me to explain how important our behaviour is this Saturday. We're going there, it's Armistice Day, we're going there to show respect and to make sure there is respect shown at our cenotaph. They keep saying they're not going near the cenotaph. Yeah, look what we've seen across the country. Look at the scenes we've seen. We've seen the police stand by whilst terrorists call for jihad. We know who the organisers of these marches are. They're Hamas supporting jihadists. Yeah? We cannot trust the police to do their job. To every man that's coming, it is so important that we behave with respect, that we are there prepared to defend if we need to defend, because that's what men do. Prepared to defend if we need to defend, but not running down any streets, not going off any routes, just meeting where we're meeting, at the embankment, at Whitehall, Churchill statue. There'll be different places, and making sure that no one comes on our sacred day and disrespects our nation and our country in such a way. Unfortunately, we should be able to rely on the police for that. We should all be sitting at home. We shouldn't have to travel into London. But I just want to say, if you want to do your country a service, you've got to behave. Everyone. So please, do not let us down, don't let yourself down, and don't let our armed forces down. It's sad. I look forward to seeing you all.
Yeah, so that's Tommy Robinson saying, if you're a man, he's calling for everyone to keep a level head and behave themselves when they defend the cenotaph on Saturday.
Who's going to be there? This is really funny. Alison Pearson's going to be there.
I think she's out of her depth.
She tweeted. She was
Coming
like,
with a big spear.
because she objects to. A lot of people have objected to. GB News wrote an online article about like far right yobs will be defending the cenotaph on Saturday, and tell you what, the GB News audience did not like being referred to as that. So
I'm going on Saturday.
So there was like, oh, you've really not read the room on this one. I usually love GB News, but I really object to being called far right.
Yeah.
And then Alison Pearson quotes it saying, I'll be there with my friends.
It
I
is-
don't think it's not really for Alison Pearson.
No,
I think it's for the.
Yes, I mean, there's a couple of things I'd say about that, and it's the same as the consequences of Suella Braverman's actions coming to greet her. And it's like, if you want to relentlessly inflame community tensions between two groups of people, either explicitly with some of your on-screen talent and the subjects they talk about, or implicitly in your story selection, the way you frame things, and just generally sort of implying that sort of traditional British values are under attack, you will end up with a situation where thousands of people descend on central London to defend a statue which is not under threat from anyone. It will take up a huge amount of police time. Like, pick any issue, right? They love to say, just stop oil are wasting valuable police. In fact, the Met Police themselves tweeted, I think it was yesterday, being like, 98 charges and 200 arrests. Every time we do this, it detracts from community policing, and it was about Just Stop Oil. It's like, okay, there will be several hundred police officers on Parliament Square on Saturday. They will kettle this lot once. Usually, it'll be about 1 or 2 o'clock when the tinnies they've been drinking since 8 a.m. has kicked in. They'll then all start running around and like fake charging the police lines. At which point, the police will then kettle them, and they'll keep them there for several hours until they've sobered up. They all need to piss and they just want to go home, and then they'll leave. If what happens last time when they did their Churchill defence, when they mounted a successful defence of the Churchill statue, because it was already enclosed in like a big steel box, so he was very safe. But they provided reinforcements. What then happens is they then get jumped by all of the kids in London as they like return to like Waterloo and the other train stations, and they get filled in. Which again takes more police time. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's why Mark Rowley's going to 10 Downing Street. Maybe he's going there to be like, can you stop feeding these fucking idiots these lines that their country is under attack? Because we have to scrape them off the floor when they're done.
Yeah. It seems, believe it or not, I don't think they've thought this through.
No. But then it makes for an exciting, exciting potential turn of events next week, in which Rishi Sunak has to turn around to Suella and say, like, that was a bit much, gonna have to let you go. And then she launches a leadership bid.
I think...
And then it keeps rolling. We keep getting nothing done in politics, but that at least there's a bit of something to watch.
Because he's getting so much done at the moment. And there's so much time to do so much.
I think I'll have
Laughing
you...
gas.
Correct. And we're also opening...
Except release as well.
We're drilling for new oil, new oil licenses, if you paid attention.
Yeah, new oil and gas in the North Sea.
Yeah.
Fucking schmuck.
Do you know what really bothered me about that, actually, just to go on a tangent?
Yeah.
It didn't need... Okay, I'm happy to be corrected on this, but why would you need a law if you can already do that? So why can't the Energy Secretary just ring up, say, I don't know, Byron, who's got a big drill, and say, can you drill in the North Sea for us and open up a new, oil extraction situation? Why do you need a new law for that? The law would be no new oil and gas licenses rather than a law to continue doing what they're already doing. Do you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, it didn't need to be mentioned. So what I'm saying is it's part of that fabrication where they're announcing things that don't actually need to be announced.
Someone made the point they didn't. There was nothing in the King's speech about banning 7 bins. I thought it was quite funny.
Well, do you know what? You'd be fucking lucky to find 7 bins in central London. I tell you.
Since 7-7.
Yeah.
There's no 7-7.
That's what it was about.
We're banning 7-7.
That's what it was about.
Yeah.
7-7.
Oh, that's what they're referring to. Someone massively misheard a conversation.
Do you know what? What you never saw with these football hooligans when they were taking our bins away? Where were they?
Yeah. Why didn't they defend us
They're
then?
taking away your right to be without litter.
It's difficult, isn't it? Is there like some kind of special conch you have to sound to get these lads to come out and defend something? Because they're very selective, aren't they? Where were they?
Where were they on? What other things could they have defended?
What else have they taken away? What other succulent British liberties have we lost?
Plastic straws.
Yeah.
Yeah, where the hell were they?
Where the hell were they? But they
Yeah.
love. I bet they hate. Everyone hates paper straws.
Yeah, but you know what's great is a pasta straw.
That's the other thing about the British far right as well. They hate turtles.
They do.
Do they?
Mm.
Why? Because they just turn up anywhere.
I
Or-
didn't think it through that far. It was the
Oh, right.
plastic straw thing. Yeah, it was a gag about you would expect me to say they hate. insert ethnic
yeah,
minority.
nice. Yeah, what else?
That was so damn.
I think Alison Pearson's out of her depth.
Oh, look,
Yeah, I'm
Sean
not
has
sure
just
she
been
should
there.
go. Alison, if you're
I
listening.
would really recommend she does not go.
Yeah.
Like, really recommend she does not go.
Sorry, Shawnee's telling me to stop banging the table.
Yeah.
Oh, fair.
Good. Yeah, that's right. Last time I was there, for the Churchill defence thing.
That's before you worked here.
Yeah, I was just no, sorry. When I was protesting against the defacing of the Churchill statue, they attack reporters. I watched a photographer have his nose broken, like literally in front of me.
You shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, sorry. When I say he was in front of me, it was just on bang, just on.
Give me back our bins.
You know that guy who stands outside Westminster? I think he's an environmental protester. He is,
Plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Ollie, but about bins every day.
And yeah, they don't like journalists. They really don't like journalists. And I think if Alison Pearson thinks that she can just go down there and be like, find common cause with these people, she's going to be sorely mistaken.
Singing Kumbaya.
That's not what it's like.
It'd be like the mix of people who were in at the January the 6th Capitol invasion. You had like semi-paramilitaries with like hog ties looking to lynch people, and then you had like people who stumbled in being like, I think we should have lower taxes.
Yeah, it's the second half, and it's not even that. To be honest with you, I think it would be obviously a slightly different crowd. For the Churchill one, it was mid-COVID, and so it was basically it was the divorced dads who's hadn't been able to go to a football match for 6 months, and so it was like, this is it, and it was actually they were. I don't know if you've ever seen like football firms or like crowds when they try and like chase each other and like corral each other around town, and the whistling they do and like to communicate to each other. It was exactly like that. It was like, whistling from one side of Parliament Square, then they all charge over there.
Really?
Yeah, and then like throw traffic cones at the cops.
I think I remember this actually.
Were you there?
No, probably.
Yeah, of course you were. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Been defending Churchill since day dot.
That's how you guys met.
That's how we met at the demo.
I'm trying to think of what protest I was at when I was with a colleague, and I just remember this man coming up and screaming in my face, "You're never gonna cover this!" It's like, I'm here. I'm not gonna cover it if you keep spitting in my face, Barry.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
I quite enjoy it actually.
Yeah, but
I enjoy the tussle. Gives me meaning. Gives me purpose.
It's a real. It's a bit on the nose, but it's a real words have consequences moment. The audience, you will see on Saturday that the people in attendance are not very nice. They have very ugly political beliefs, and if people like Suella Braverman spend their days speaking without nuance and with hate and resentment and employ the politics of division, there are real world consequences. Yeah,
no, you bang on. I think it's interesting that she seems to think, talking about describing the Palestine marches as a hate march, etc., and the planning to ban tents for homeless people. She seems to think that British people hate nothing more than people sleeping on the streets and Palestinian children. That's the bet she's making, is that people, even within the Conservative Party, if she's making this stand as like a leadership bid, as a platform for like the next hustings, whenever that is, probably in a year's time, being like, remember when I did that great idea to make homeless people colder and die?
It's sort of approaching incitement to violence, isn't it? To be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about this last time. Even from a polling the mood standpoint, when those two really wealthy students burned a £50 note in front of a homeless person, and everyone got, the whole of the country were upset about it. That should have been a good focus group for you. That going after the homeless, not it.
Not smart.
Also, very interesting that she went after the around 4,000 veterans who sleep homeless on Armistice Week. I'm not saying that was disrespectful.
Are
Suella,
you implying that?
But where's your fucking poppy?
Are you implying they're being disingenuous about remembrance?
No. Am I being disingenuous?
No, I am. Sorry, I'm implying that they're being disingenuous.
Ah. Yeah, of course they are. It's no.
This is the extraordinary thing about all of this is that at no point have the protesters said that they would go near the cenotaph. Then after all this started to kick off, they said they explicitly wouldn't go anywhere near it. They said the time of their march would start later so that it didn't conflict with a minute's silence. The whole thing is confected. It's not real. And yet the the Prime Minister, no less, Suella Braverman, and then all of the right-wing papers that are in hock to them are like, well, they'd better not touch the cenotaph. And it's like, you're setting them up. You're setting it up so that even if one fucking fringe lunatic gets to the cenotaph, lays out 2,000 overweight cenotaph defenders, the upset of the century, the complete underdog story, and they deface the cenotaph. It's like, well, we told you so.
Yeah,
we told you they would do this, despite the fact that no one's really planning, at least in a meaningful way, to do so. And as a result, you've then mobilized all of these people who are going to go and defend the thing when it's not really under threat.
It also made the people marching incredibly vulnerable because it's not like they will be trying their utmost to get at the protesters after the.
Oh yeah, they're going to be up there looking for a fight for sure.
Yeah. And if you say you're a well-meaning person who just wants, you've been horrified by the images everyone's been seeing in Gaza, and that's inspired you to like protest, and you're just a normal person there. You're vulnerable.
Yeah.
To these people.
Because of that weird us and them narrative, right? This is the self-obsession that amongst some of these football hooligans grates on me. I can't even tell you. Like the idea that no one apart from them had people in their family who fought in the army or fought during World War II. I mean, how self-obsessed can you be? The way that they talk about it, like, my great-grandfather did not die in 1914 for this. It's like, yeah, pal, there was a lot of people died during that, and there was conscription, in the war after that. Like, come on. It's really frustrating. I was looking at a lot of the right-wing commentary. They were all professing who in their family had fought in the army. All right. Bring me someone in the last decade, hun.
Yeah.
I'll fight you on the beaches.
An open invitation.
Yeah.
Meet me in the marketplace of fists.
Did Nicholas Soames not? He's
Churchill's grandson.
I know he's pro the march though.
That's what I was going to say about it. They're really, really concerned about that Winston Churchill statue. And then Nicholas Soames, who, I'm sorry, is actually sharing blood with the guy, is like, well, I think the march should go ahead. Churchill tradition of free speech, and this is fantastic. And they're like, oh, no, he didn't mean it like that.
He's really old. He's senile.
Yeah.
He's a fucking Nepo baby.
Yeah.
Idiot.
Yeah.
Anything more to say on this, guys? Should we move on?
Yeah. Oh, wait, should we maybe talk a little bit about the I just wanted to talk about the Sadiq Khan thing, because there was a lot of bubbling away about why on earth hasn't Sadiq Khan shut this down. There is, the Public Order Act means that Sir Mark Rowley needs to go to the Home Secretary and say, we can't police this properly, shut it down. Nothing to do with Sadiq Khan. But it's amazing how it always comes back to him,
Oh, is it the Home Secretary that does the section 40?
Well, no, it's the police. So they need to go and ask permission.
Right.
So
they can't do
need
it
to
without political consent, basically.
Yeah. So they need to take that under the Public Order Act. We can't police this properly. This is a danger to the public. Ban it. But everyone's banding it about. No one wants the responsibility of it. It's like hot potato,
Yeah. It's just actions, consequences, isn't it?
That'll do.
Quickly touch on how much culpability Sunak has.
Okay.
For keeping Braverman in his cabinet.
Yeah, well, he has to, doesn't he?
Does he?
I think he would. I think the Conservative Party politics mean that if she wasn't in the cabinet, then he'd basically be attacked by the right of the party.
But does this not speak to he's a much more right-wing figure than he appears to be? He could have her in this cabinet because he agrees with all of her policies, and she can be the public face of
His attack dog, yeah.
Yeah, I think it would almost be farcical to suggest that if she left the cabinet and then was just like rallying the backbenchers, the party would be any more out of control than it already is. I mean, you've got Lee Anderson on GB News saying some of the most insane things you've ever
Deputy
heard.
chairman of the Conservative Party.
Yeah, you've got Esther McVeigh making up that apparently a painting is that was
suffragette painting.
Yeah, a 17th century painting was about the suffragettes, and therefore it's the fall of humanity. You know, he's got so many MPs that are so out of line. That, you know, one more actually maybe, you know, you'd need a really effective organizer to try and, like, you know, homogenize all of the grievances that the current incumbent members of parliament have to try and actually, you know, create a proper rebellion. But at the moment, it's just like children sitting on the green benches screaming, "I don't like this, but I don't know why."
Yeah, he never walks back her comments, does he?
No. He doesn't say I refute. He doesn't sack her. She's still Home Secretary.
Yeah, the stuff she said about grooming gangs and Pakistani men. And then, I mean, you could literally, it's like a checklist, isn't it? Any of the shit she said.
Or anything that people in the cabinet have said.
Or just,
all vulnerable people have been attacked verbally in policy by the Conservative government.
Even, I tell you what, even just as a, you know, if you wanted to be more hard-nosed, you wanted to be more conservative about it, you could say like, yeah, okay, we don't like her hurty words, but, you know, we'll let that slide. And we'll actually just say we've made stopping the small boats a matter of national priority. And you've absolutely failed to stop that. You're banning laughing gas. Like, fucking straighten yourself out.
Yeah, the asylum seekers, once they get off the beaches at Dover, they can't even have a slight reprieve and have a bit of nos.
You know, that's why they're
Come
coming.
on, fucking balloon, lads, shoot yourselves up.
That's why they're coming over. It's for the massive nos market that exists in the UK.
Well, they give that to you. You know, when you get on the Bibby Stockholm, they actually hand you a couple of balloons. That's where the Legionnaires came from. Is Suella Braverman to Rishi Sunak what Nigel Farage was to Boris Johnson during the 2019 election?
What do you mean?
So Nigel Farage and the Brexit Party were, we're going to support Boris Johnson to get Brexit done, but we're going to spew some of the maddest rhetoric you've ever heard. Boris Johnson never had to come out and correct Farage, or never had to, you know, or even agree with it. He just capitalised on that fervour, that whipping up of hatred, and he won the election. Is Suella Braverman doing that for Rishi Sunak?
I suppose the difference is there's no upside for Sunak. As in, Sunak's not going to reap any benefits from this.
But he might, because in like some galaxy brain thinking, you might go, okay, she's going to get people so upset and so riled up. They're going to vote Conservative.
It's a war of attrition.
Yeah.
Like, actually, this is what were they saying
Yeah.
about the demon trans people selling nos to my XL bully child?
Yeah, I don't know, but we're all living in the Bibby Stockholm if Keir Starmer's Prime Minister.
I get my own boat. Is that what happens? I'm the king of Rwanda. Is that what I want?
I used to have quite a lucrative sideline selling nos.
Did you?
Yeah.
Is that something we're just going to put in there?
I'm sure it's fine.
I don't think it was illegal at the time.
No, but you were, I quite like that you would be pretending that was for, like, you know, recreational purposes, and actually you were like a seller to kitchens.
Yeah, touring the kitchens.
What did you pick?
Well,
How much did you?
it was actually a
Sell
very
for it?
very lucrative sideline. It was 2 for 1, 3 for a double.
Do you mean like
2 for
canisters
1?
or like balloons?
£2 for a balloon.
Right.
£3
Right.
for a balloon with 2 canisters.
Say that
in it.
again. How much?
£2.
£2 for 1,
Yeah,
£3 for a double.
for 2. That's cheap, that.
That's really cheap.
If you were going down
Yeah,
to...
but it was the early 10s. What's the last decade called?
Pennies.
The tennies.
I've just christened it that.
The
I don't know.
The teenies.
Teens.
The teens.
How much are you buying a canister for?
What's this in
Will you
clubs?
buy them in bulk? No. So I was promoting for a club. So what you do
Right.
is you throw a party. You get like, I don't know, 50 people to come.
Mhm.
You'd sell them all a ticket to your nightclub event.
Mhm.
So that would be £5 a ticket.
Yeah.
Then during the prees, you'd go around and sell them balloons.
All right, and how much is your NOS? What's your margins here?
On the
you've
NOS,
got-
I can't remember how much I bought it for. You buy it in bulk, let's say 50p a canister, less than.
Is it really?
Less than, probably.
And then what? So balloons, nominal fee, right?
Yeah, fucking penny.
But so yeah, so I mean, you're cashing in every single time,
know.
right?
You had a ton of money.
Yeah.
Are you doing this? Why are you not the Nos Empire?
Because fucking Rishi Sunak has closed down my business. Yeah, so
Yeah. Who do you think fed into the inquiry?
you guys are going to stop this.
This is insane. You know, like the Sacklers who did like the opioid crisis. It was the Dugmores that did the Nos crisis.
The hippie crack crisis. Hippie crack kingpin.
They're gonna have to like take your name off the museums that you sponsor.
Me and Raheem Sterling.
I did have a date once when I came back and I got led back to my flat, and like there were two guys who were always outside my flat, but not in not for me, like, you know, they just gathered there, I guess, or whatever, and they're always selling balloons. And the guy was like, when I turned back up, the guy was like, "Oh, all right, Ava, do you want a balloon?" And I like had to turn to the date, being like, "I don't do balloons out the front of my flat all the time with these two men. I just need to make that really clear."
I once sat in Bishop's Park in like Fulham area.
I don't.
It's
but-
lovely. It's a lovely park on the river. I was sitting there on a nice sunny day, nice Sunday afternoon, just having a chat with a friend. On the bench next to us were two guys out their faces. Speaker, the loudest speaker.
The loudest music you've ever heard.
just nothing but techno. Just nailing balloon after balloon after balloon.
What time of day?
3 p.m.
They've like blown their eardrums so they
Sunday
can't hear it.
afternoon. Like they can't have had a coherent thought in like 2 hours.
That was my customer base.
Yeah, just this guy. Oh, it was you. Sorry,
Yeah, sorry.
that's how we met.
That's
how we met.
So you got a job.
In the interest of balance, my good friend's girlfriend works in A&E, and she says that she sees like a couple of people who are like insanely fucked up from Nos. And then you delve into this a little bit more, and they'll be doing like 40 balloons a day. You're like, why are you doing that? Why?
Probably one of the guys sitting on the bench.
Well, that might have been one of our customers.
Yeah.
It's just a bit pathetic, that, isn't it?
What, doing 40 a day?
40 balloons a day.
Well, who has the time?
Like, just get a fucking 10 bag. Do you know what I mean? Come on, get serious about it.
What, you think by like the 10th balloon they go, "Oh God, we should have really taken that 3 for 10 deal rather than like we kept doing the £3 doubles or whatever."
No, no, I mean, like, fucking buy a bag of weed. Like, what are you doing? Fucking banging balloons all day.
Yeah.
If you take 40 balloons a day, I think you can quite seriously damage like your nerve endings.
Yeah, of course you can.
If you do 40 of anything a day, you do serious damage to
How
your
about
body.
press ups, my guy?
If you took 40.
You're hammering like 40 grams of protein before 9:30 now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that's like a reasonable amount of protein to eat. If I had 4,000 grams,
Macros Ed over
Yeah.
here.
4,000 grams would be.
How much protein you had today, bro?
I actually don't know.
So much. You don't know what it is.
I actually can tell you because
Yeah,
I
can
watch
you
his
show me-
protein intake.
Can you show me your macro tracker?
I haven't filled it. I actually don't really use it very often.
You had a 20 gram Arla yogurt this morning.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a 25er. It was
No,
a
it
20
wasn't.
gram.
20.
Did you have in your meal deal a protein
I
drink?
think we'll do.
You didn't.
Chicken pesto pasta. I had
Oh
about-
yeah, you did. Yeah.
I would say I had about 170 grams of chicken in my lunch.
How much of that is protein, my guy?
Of chicken?
Quick maths.
I actually don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know
not
how
a lot because he only uses the feet.
It's really cheap. I buy it from a guy down the docks.
Should we call that 30? Should we call that 30 grams of protein?
It's more than that.
50?
I just don't know.
50? Let's call it 50.
Yeah.
Square 50, okay.
So
You're at 75 already.
Yeah,
And dinner will be?
I don't know actually.
But it'll have some fucking protein in it, you best
I'm
believe.
going to my girlfriend, so I'll see.
Protein shake?
No, I don't have protein shakes.
that is a lie.
Sorry, in a meal deal. I do in a meal deal. Sorry, that was a lie. I don't make my own protein shake. It's also that it's kind of I find this fundamentally embarrassing because I'm not an enormous bodybuilder. If it was fundamentally embarrassing to look like I do and talk about protein content.
How did we get here?
I don't know, but what we should do in the edit is inflate you.
Yeah.
Do you remember
no,
when we
we
did that podcast with Harry and he just looked massive because of the angle?
What we should have done is cut away some massive bodybuilder sitting with his head out of shot. And then it's my voice.
Yeah. Nerve damage, nerve ending damage from tuning balloons.
Mm-hmm.
Vitamin B12 deficiency?
Really?
I believe so.
What if you're supplementing?
Oh, then it's fine. And I think
Breach blue.
I think the other major risk is if you bang like a fucking huge one, you can cut off the oxygen supply and that will brain damage.
Mm-hmm.
There is
That's
the risk
extreme.
of that, isn't there?
There is a
It is
risk
bad.
of it.
You know,
but-
there is risks to hippie crack. That's why it's called hippie crack.
Yeah.
Because of the risks associated.
But the biggest
it's as
risk of
bad as
it-
I
crack.
think that's because they were trying to find something to fucking do Raheem Sterling over for.
No, the biggest risk of it was the litter that was left on our parks because children were picking them up and then, they got on the nos,
From an empty canister.
Yeah, so like all around southeast London,
That's
Ollie's
21st.
left like little notes being like, enjoy this little leftover can.
That's
Call me.
21st century parenting. You know, before it'd be like they dab like a bit of whiskey on your gums or like put it in your bottle. Nowadays it's like have a fucking balloon and shut up.
You know, like every Halloween, it's like, be careful of the evil people giving out pingers to your children as sweets. Someone giving out, have this balloon.
Trick or treat.
This is actually, it's like not helium, it's just nos.
Should we move on?
Yeah.
Ava, you were joined by the former leader of the Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn, earlier.
Yeah, here's my conversation with Jeremy Corbyn. Hello, Jeremy. How are you?
Very well, thank you, and lovely to be here.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming in. Well, let's speak broadly to start with. Let's talk about your position. So you're calling for a ceasefire,
Yes.
which is at odds with what the parliamentary party, the Labour parliamentary party, are calling for. They'd like a humanitarian pause. Can you talk to me a little bit about that distinction?
I'm not quite sure what they mean by humanitarian pause. When Netanyahu's asked about it, he talks about a humanitarian pause for an hour, and no more than that. Others talk about something much longer, and indeed the words first came from the compromise Security Council motion that Brazil put forward. Brazil put forward one calling for a ceasefire. That was objected to by many others. This is a couple of weeks ago. And the compromise was they called for a humanitarian pause without being specific, but that was too much for Israel and the United States. So the United States vetoed it, and that didn't happen. I think what they're talking about is something quite short term, but that means then that it's a humanitarian pause for letting some aid in, possibly some hostages out, one hopes so, and then resume the bombing. Well, that's just not good enough, and what we have to do is stop the bombing. 10,000 people have died, 4,000 children included in that. And a ceasefire has to mean what it says, which is a ceasefire agreed by both sides. Now, those that are making the call for it clearly have some means of communication, probably via Egypt, with Hamas. So there would be a ceasefire, and you can then start some kind of negotiations on what's happening for the future. But crucially, you can get aid in there. Look, I'm getting calls from people in Gaza who are starving. They have no medicine. There are doctors trying to perform operations without anaesthetic. There are thousands of people hanging around in Rafah hoping to get across the border because they have either foreign passports or a connection with people living outside. And I was talking to somebody yesterday whose father had managed to get to Cairo, but only he was allowed out. The rest of his family were told to stay. And so it's a devastating situation on a personal level that people are in. There has to be a ceasefire, and I really cannot understand what it is about the British government and indeed the leadership of the Labour Party. They're not prepared to say, look, ceasefire now in order to protect life.
Well, the argument for that would be that, you had a Hamas representative just last week reveling in repeating the attacks of October 7th, again and again and again.
Look, the attacks on October the 7th were evil and wrong in every way and have to be totally condemned, and Hamas have to be totally condemned for doing them. And I was listening to Dr. Mustafa Barghouti this morning on BBC radio, and he was making the point that he is no supporter of Hamas in any way, and I know Dr. Barghouti extremely well. And he said, but you've got to recognise that Hamas didn't come from nowhere. It didn't exist 30 years ago. It didn't exist when the occupation began. It's a product of the occupation.
So why do you think then Bernie Sanders is reticent to call for a ceasefire?
I can't understand why that is the case. I'm disappointed. I hoped that Bernie Sanders would be one of those in the USA that would support the call for a ceasefire. He is a very powerful voice in the Senate and obviously within the Democratic Party, albeit he's an independent senator.
I mean, it's surprising, isn't it? Because you would think that your politics would align on that.
Well, I get along very well with Bernie Sanders. We know each other quite well. We've met many times and talked and so on. And on economic and social justice issues, on power of global corporations and environmental issues, we very much agreed. I am surprised that he's taken this line because in the past he's been quite critical of the huge amount of US military support for Israel, and I hoped that that would continue into recognizing the need for a ceasefire. There are many people in the US that are demonstrating in support for ceasefire. Look, are we just going to be spectators in the killing of thousands and thousands of more people? And in reality, what Netanyahu said yesterday is the truth behind it all. Netanyahu said, in future, we will take control of the security situation in Gaza. I read that as reoccupying Gaza. Now, they already have gone as far south as Gaza City. The Israeli troops. The bombing has obviously gone over the whole of the Gaza Strip. And what I see is a reoccupation, the not so gradual expulsion of the Palestinian population from Gaza, and the creation of a new Gaza Strip in the Sinai. And in 20 years' time, we'll be back here again with exactly the same thing, with Israel claiming its right to defend the Gaza Strip. I hope I'm wrong. I absolutely hope I'm wrong. But unfortunately, all the signs from the Israeli military and the Israeli government move in that direction.
There's a couple of things I want to pick up on there. So when you talked about, are we just going to be spectators on the killing that is going on in the Gaza Strip? I mean, on the flip side of that, the argument against a ceasefire is that we could again be spectators to another attack by Hamas in Israel.
Well, a ceasefire has to be the participation of both sides. It's not that long ago that people in Mossad were saying that there has to be talks between the Israeli government and Hamas. There has to be some way forward. Whether those are happening or not, I don't know, but quite clearly on previous occasions, Operation Cast Lead and other times, there have been agreed ceasefires between Israel and Hamas, and those ceasefires have been brokered by the Egyptian government. 10,000 already dead. 1,400 Israelis already dead. Are we just going to be spectators watching these numbers go up and up and up and continue supplying weapons, arms, and everything else that Israel needs, particularly from the United States, or are we going to play some serious part in this? But I also say that what's being ignored is the situation on the West Bank. Israeli forces have increased their presence on the West Bank. Some villages have been driven away, the whole community driven away. And I found Mick Bowman last week. He's a guy from Newcastle who is very passionate about the needs of Palestinian people and walked from Newcastle to Palestine, except the last bit from Turkey when he had to get a plane to go to Amman and then go into the West Bank. And he was at a village in the Hebron Hills. And I said, what's going on there, Mick? He said, well, Israeli army have surrounded the village and are now systematically going house to house and evicting people and throwing them out. And this is all done because the world's media are not watching, because they're only watching what's going on in Gaza.
Right. And so to combat that as well, so let's talk about opening that dialogue with Hamas that you were just speaking about there. You've been calling for this for, the best part of a decade. And if you don't mind me saying, I think you've been ridiculed for it as well on quite a number of occasions. I mean, do you think there's a sense now, do you personally feel vindicated by these calls?
It's not about me personally. It's about the undying demand of a lot of people to bring about peace, and a peace with justice for the Palestinian people. I've been 9 times in Israel, in the West Bank, and in Gaza. And I've been in Jordan, and I've been in Syria, and I've been in Lebanon, and I've been in Egypt. I've visited the undying misery of refugee camps in all of those countries. And the Palestinians who've been 70 years in refugee camps, do they feel angry? Yeah, they do. They do. Do people in Gaza feel angry when they listen to their grandparents or who were driven out of their homes to make way for Israel? Yeah, they do. And if we don't understand that sense of hurt, and also understand the feelings of a lot of people in Israel, yes, they feel a lack of security because of hostility. But there's also a lot of people in Israel that recognize this cannot go on forever. We cannot just be this tough security state continually at war with the Palestinian neighbors. They recognize there has to be a change. So you talk to people in Bethlehem, talk to people in the various human rights groups. They have a very different view. We're not hearing that view on our media.
So do you think that there is, the potential to open a dialogue with Hamas? There would be large swathes of the country here who would be frightened hearing that, right? You've got a proscribed terrorist organisation, and the British government are potentially going to open a conversation with them.
It's not going to happen tomorrow. A ceasefire would be the first stage of it. There then has to be a dialogue with the people of Gaza, many of whom do not support Hamas. I've been in Gaza and I've talked to people there who absolutely not supporters of Hamas, but live there and recognise that there's been huge problems for them. And so it has to be about bringing about a ceasefire. Otherwise, what happens? We've got 21st century weapons raining down on people's homes, killing them and their children. Their last moment of life for many people will be trying to shelter in a seriously damaged, dangerous building, and a bomb comes down and that's it. Mm-hmm. And that's happened to 10,000 people.
It's possible that the IDF eradicate Hamas and people are allowed to cross back through the Rafah crossing and life begins again in Gaza. If that is the situation, who's in charge now of Gaza? Who's running the region?
Well, nobody is running Gaza at the moment. Hamas government, I would imagine, hardly exists in the sense of chaos that's there. And the people that I've talked to who've come out of Gaza just said there's complete chaos. There's been riots every time a food truck is seen. There's desperation to get medical care. We've got more water on this table than most Palestinians get for a whole day. That, for a whole day, including washing and everything else. That's the misery of that life that they've got. So I assume the modus operandi for the future has to be more resources for the UN Relief and Works Agency, which is grossly underfunded, in order to continue providing education and healthcare and food supplies. Many people in Gaza rely completely on the UN for their existence and have done their entire life. I've never forgotten the first time I went to Gaza. It would have been in the 90s. I met this woman in her house. She was about the same age as my mother. And I asked her about her life. And she said, we came from what is now Tel Aviv in 1948. And we've lived here ever since. I've relied on the UN all my life. I've got 3 sons. One, I don't know where he is. The other's in prison and the other's gone abroad. And she said, this is our life. We're under occupation. This was before the withdrawal from Gaza. And life is hell. And that was her whole story of her life. Then you think of the equivalent woman of that age in Britain, be proud of her children, proud of what she'd done, somewhere to live and all that. And it's just that whole life cycle of oppression coming about from the occupation.
The issue there, though, the UN, yes, they do incredible work and they are holding up what is left of the region, but they're not government. So if you are to move into a space where Hamas are hypothetically eradicated, truly, who? Well,
you have to build up a basis for it through development of local government and all the rest of it. But
how do you do that, though? Is that Western intervention? What's the...
you have to do it with the support of the people of the place and the area. And the point that Barghouti was making this morning very powerfully was that we continually talk about Gaza as though it's somewhere different from the rest of Palestine and not united with the rest of Palestine. And the Israeli border activities have made it very difficult for people to travel between Gaza and the West Bank, and that was the intention behind it. And his view is that there has to be a unity of it. Now, when the last election took place, which is almost 20 years ago now, there was then a election campaign in both Gaza and the West Bank, and I was an observer of that election, both on the West Bank and in Gaza, and the candidates were from all parties. I mean, the dominant parties were Fatah and Hamas. Hamas one on the Gaza Strip, Fatah one on the West Bank.
Do you think it's possible to be critical of Israel without being anti-Semitic?
Absolutely, absolutely. Anti-Semitism is just an evil. Historically, anti-Semitism has been evil, and you read the history of the treatment of Jewish people over centuries. Expulsion from Britain in the 13th century, readmittance to Britain in the 17th century, and that sort of routine anti-Semitic language that's used in literature and in history in this country and all over Europe, and then the anti-Semitism towards Russian Jews when they came to Britain in the 1890s, early 1900s, and the first Aliens Act of, I think it was 1906, which was directed against the arrival of Russian Jews into Britain. And then, of course, the growth of anti-Semitism, particularly in France and Germany, and to some extent here. And then, of course, the Nazis and the Holocaust and the 6 million that died. I mean, it is an appalling history, and that's where anti-Semitism leads you to. And so, is it possible to be critical of Israel without being anti-Semitic? Yes, I think it is. Isaac Deutscher, a great writer, Jewish guy who lived in Britain, great writer, particularly of history of the Soviet Union, and a very deep intellectual. I didn't know him. I knew his widow, Tamara, very well. And she was, like him, Jewish. She had deep misgivings about Israel and its behavior, but she was proud to be a Jewish woman who wanted to see an end to all anti-Semitism. There is a whole generation of Jewish people that are critical of Israel's behavior, but nonetheless equally proud to be Jewish people, and so they should be.
The rest of that conversation, which covers more about Israel-Palestine, but also pertains to the King's speech, new oil and gas licenses in the North Sea, is available on the PoliticsJOE YouTube. So go and check it out if you enjoyed that little taste just then. Otherwise, I think we'll draw proceedings to a close, ladies and gentlemen. How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
We'll finish it there?
Yes, absolutely.
An absolute pleasure. Ed Campbell, Ava Santina, thank you for your company as always.
Thank you.
We're the dustbin of podcasts.
For the dustbin?
There's no bins, are there?
Oh, so we're the dustbin. We're the
Can't
seven
find
bins.
a bin? Come here.
We'll take your litter and dispose of it. It's always new lucrative sideline.
Yeah.
After they banned
Fucking
Knots,
took
he's fucking destitute.
my other side hustle away.
All he's got to lose his home because they banned Knots.
My NOS empire is in ruins. Thank you. See you on the next one.